Remember that list we told you about last night, the one being circulated by Republicans previewing investigations Democrats could launch if they take over the House? It's a very long list, which was no doubt intended to strike fear into the heart of Republicans, but which actually just reads as a list of things that absolutely should be investigated. It features broad categories like family separation policy. And come to think of it, at this very moment, more than a month after a federal judge's deadline, over 500 children remain separated from their families. What is going to happen to them? We genuinely don't know. And that seems worthy of looking into. Another item on that list, hurricane response in Puerto Rico. Up until this month, the official death count as a result of Hurricane Maria was 64 people. But according to a new study out today, commissioned by the Puerto Rican government, almost 3,000 people died in the 5 months after Maria hit. The wildly understated death toll by this administration has not been the subject of any major sustained congressional investigation. And that also seems worthy of a little looking into. And now tonight, we have another scandal Republicans may want to add to the list. It has to do with the President of the United States directly intervening in the development of the FBI building, which happens to sit across the street from the Trump International Hotel in D.C. Joining me now to explain this, Jonathan O'Connell, reporter of the Washington Post, who has been covering Donald Trump's interest, one might even say obsession, the FBI building for years, has a new piece out this week on the subject, and Ann Weissman, chief FOIA counsel for the Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, also known as CREW. All right, Jonathan, my basic understanding here is the FBI had a big redevelopment plan ready to go. They were going to move the headquarters out somewhere. The kibosh was put on it, and the question is, did the president do it, right?
I think that's a big part of it, Chris. Yeah, I mean, for 10 years, the FBI and the General Services Administration have been working on a plan to build a secure campus for the FBI in the Washington suburbs, a place where, you could not drive a car bomb or commit some other horrible act on the FBI where they are downtown. And there's sort of been a real U-turn recently under the Trump administration. Part of that, I think, is the FBI deciding that maybe they want to remain downtown. And part of it is the president taking a personal interest in this project and this contract, which is obviously unusual. And as you pointed out, there's an added layer of tension and the stakes are a bit higher because the president's hotel is just down the street from this parcel here.
If I'm not mistaken, Ann, he met with the head of the GSA on this very question.
Yes.
Is that normal?
I don't think so, no. In fact, the president met on 2 separate occasions with the head of the GSA. And earlier than that, the head of the GSA had a meeting with White House Chief of Staff John Kelly. And one of the meetings that the GSA head had took place just weeks before the FBI announced that it was going to rebuild back on the original FBI headquarters site. So the IG report really provides mounting evidence of that the president has potentially improperly interfered in the decision, a decision that will affect his bottom line. Because if the FBI had been allowed to relocate to another location, it's likely that in its place where the FBI now stands, there'd be a commercial building that would compete directly with the president's hotel just down the street.
Oh, I see. So the theory of the interference here, and Jonathan, this is something you reported on for a while. Trump has been interested himself even before the hotel, Jonathan. Trump, back in 2013, that he and Ivanka would consider acquiring the FBI headquarters. This is a piece of commercial development property he himself has wanted to develop.
Yep. At the time, President Trump, or then Mr. Trump, had just won the contract to build his hotel across the street, and that is also with the GSA. He was riding high, feeling great about his work there, and had, talked about, maybe I will bid on the FBI headquarters across the way. I mean, part of the other problem here, obviously, is that the head of the GSA is effectively the president's landlord at the same time she is a presidential appointee. So her agency oversees the president's lease, a lease he still benefits from financially right now in the old post office building, which is his hotel, while she is overseeing projects like the FBI.
And Mike, that seems like such an obvious conflict on its face.
Well, that's exactly right. And if the president were any other federal employee, he would be conflicted out from even participating in discussions about where to site the FBI building, because he would have a direct and predictable financial interest in the outcome of that decision. But as we know, and as we've seen evidence of again and again, the president is not subject to the same conflict of interest laws.
And finally, the head of the GSA, a woman named Emily Murphy, Jonathan, was asked multiple times, basically, was the president driving this? Did he intervene? And she basically answered in a way that wasn't quite a lie, but
Right.
led one to believe the president had not, right?
Right, and that instance has been magnified in this report, but there are multiple instances where officials from the GSA and the FBI have declined to say in front of Congress what the White House's involvement in the decision have been and what the president's involvement in the decision have been, which I'm not even really clear the reason for those sort of those dodges of those questioning, because, you know, if the president wants to take a specific involvement in one real estate project, maybe it's just his prerogative, but if there's something larger there that they're covering up, I think that's
Right.
the reason that investigators are taking a peek at this.
I think that you put your finger on it. It's the sort of deception and dissembling around the president's role, to me, that is the thing that seems the strangest about this as far as the
Yeah.
facts that we know. Jonathan O'Connell
Right.
and Ann Weissman, thank you for joining me. Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.